What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to the Pathways to Success podcast. In studio today, I have Cam Sadler, who is the founder and CEO of NewCraft Technologies, a Y-Combinator-backed startup that helps build work simulations that makes learning a new craft easy. Cam, welcome to the podcast, man. How are you?
Good. Happy to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Big shout out to Rajay Jones, who introduced us. Without him, this interview wouldn't be possible, so big shout out there. So Cam, just to kind of set the stage for everyone here, kind of get us on the same page. What exactly is Y-Combinator, and why is that a big deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So Y-Combinator is an investment firm that invests a small amount of capital in a large number of companies every year. So there are 10,000 companies every year that apply to Y-Combinator. They interview 600 and they accept 120. They then invest in those companies, and then they essentially provide the best education you can get for building a startup. And their sort of claim to fame is they produced the likes of Airbnb, Dropbox, Instacart. So they've produced arguably the most successful companies of the last 10 years in tech startups.
Wow. So what is that application process like? You were one of the few to actually get accepted. Like, give us a story like leading up to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty straightforward. They ask really interesting questions about your business, such as what do you understand about this that other people don't? What's your unique insight? What's your go-to-market strategy? And so they ask a lot of good questions that are good for building a business in general.
Yeah.
And so we just simply answered the questions about our business. We submitted the application, and from there, you just kind of wait to get an email for an interview.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity post Y-Combinator to do a few mock interviews with folks who are applying for the summer batch, and that's where I've really kind of reflected back on our application process and thought a lot more about it. And I think the key thing is just explaining what you do in a very straightforward and simple manner. That's like 50%, that gets you in the top 50%. And then from there, hopefully there's some unique insight or some vision for the world that can make it better.
Wow. So what exactly is NewCraft? What's the idea? What's the startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So NewCraft simulates freelance work. And here's what that means. If you want to be a freelancer for Airbnb or Dropbox, you need to sort of know what the onboarding process is like with those companies. You also have to sort of develop the skills necessary for that job. And so Airbnb has certain fonts and a certain design style that they want all of their freelance designers to understand. And so we simulate exactly what that looks like for freelancers. Yeah. And then there's also like sort of advanced design styles and advanced coding styles that people have to pick up to really close those contracts. Yeah. And so we provide a skill development aspect as we're simulating the onboarding process.
Interesting. So when you say freelancers, are these primarily engineers? Are they creatives? Who is this for?
Yeah, so it's open now. So it's anyone who wants to learn a digital skill or anyone that's actively freelancing and wants to reskill.
Interesting. So how are you gaining these insights from these companies? Do you have like relationships there, I guess, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So YC helps a lot because we've been able to build relationships with a lot of companies from that network. And so our initial sort of go-to-market is focused on supporting YC companies, understanding their process, and making it easier and faster for them to discover freelance talent. And we also onboard that talent through our simulation.
And that helps the company because you're sort of curating talent. You're helping. That's really interesting. How did you get the idea for this?
Yeah, so it's been quite a journey. Our initial focus has always been freelancers. Mm-hmm. And so our first product was an easy way for freelancers to subcontract work to other freelancers. Then we launched instant payouts for freelancers. Mm-hmm. And the two things that we learned from growing to thousands of users with both of those products were that a lot of people don't know how to freelance. And a lot of freelancers have trouble onboarding and getting access to top companies because that process is sort of abstract. There's so many different nuances in freelancing, and especially freelancing for companies like Airbnb and Dropbox. Mm-hmm. And so that was the most interesting thing that we picked out with our first two launches was like, we need to teach people how to be master freelancers.
Yeah. What is your background? Like, what were you doing before this startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a startup before this one called GF17. It was a co-work space for freelancers.
An actual physical space for freelancers.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So it's a co-work space in Fort Worth, Texas, and we had a nice community of freelancers. And the idea there was you get a membership to a space, and freelancers collaborate with each other on projects. So I learned a lot in that business for this business. And before that, I was a teacher, so I taught business and technology. And so I have a bit of a ed tech background, and teaching sort of made me passionate about freelancing being another path.
Where were you teaching?
Dunbar High School.
Okay,
Fort
cool.
Worth. Yeah.
Oh wow, right on, man. So, so as far as that goes, then, like, where is like the product or platform at today? What is the current iteration?
Yeah, so we're in private beta right now on our work simulation. And the cool thing is we've over the last 9 months, and for me over the last 2 years, I've seen just about every freelance work scenario. And so we're pulling all of those scenarios and pulling all the data from our first 2 products and sort of pushing them into our new product to generate more and more content, more and more freelance work scenarios. An example scenario is a product manager at Airbnb is overbooked. Their headcount has reached max, and so they need to add a talent designer to the team quick to redesign their search page. And so we plug that in as a scenario where you literally are having a conversation with a bot who's acting as the product manager at Airbnb, and they're going to ask you the same questions, they're going to ask you for the same content that the real product manager would. And you have to deliver and fulfill what that product manager is requesting in order to sort of earn the reward at the end.
Which is the contract, which is the job, right?
We actually do like small payouts in like an incentivized system. And so you'll actually, for completing that project, you'll get a small reward of maybe $50 to $80. And then that also goes into your portfolio. And then you use that to get a job. And you're searchable in our marketplace where that product manager at Airbnb can go through and see the work you completed in the simulation. And they can say, this looks outstanding. This person understands the exact questions that I would ask. They understand exactly what we're looking for here at Airbnb and freelance designers. And so I want to hire them. And when I press that button to hire them, they already know everything that they need to know to be successful as a freelancer here.
Okay, this is fascinating to me because my background is in recruiting, right? All I've done was hire engineers and creatives, and one of the most defining things that I could tell about a candidate is what have you created? Show me your work, because you can tell a lot from that. It seems like you're sort of automating the process. So I'm curious, like in this flow of like how this works, is there ever an interview that takes place, or it's just based on work?
Yeah, so it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
The company's recruiters essentially have a dashboard where they can say, okay, I want to interview this person, or this work looks outstanding. We want to be aggressive and get this person onboarded as fast as possible. The good thing about freelancing is you don't have to go through all of the HR stuff that you have to go through as a full-time employee.
Right.
But we've seen a lot of scenarios where someone goes from freelancer to full-time employee. And it's good because it's kind of low barrier on both sides, not too much buy-in. You get a feel for each other, and then after 6 months of freelancing, they want you as a full-time employee.
Wait a minute. So who's the customer then? You sell who's using this on the client side? Is it recruiting, HR, direct hiring management? Who's using it?
Yeah. So we give companies a dashboard, and they can invite anybody in that company that's relevant that needs to have an eye on talent.
Yeah.
Maybe the product manager, maybe recruiters. And so companies have their platform.
Yeah.
And we actually open that up to companies now for free. We want them to get access to the people using our platform.
Yeah.
We charge the freelancers and we charge aspiring freelancers to get access to learning this way of learning a new craft.
So I'm a recruiter. I'm using your platform. What do I see to evaluate candidates?
Absolutely. So you see a list of candidates.
Yeah.
You see the work that they've completed in their portfolio, and you can also go back and actually see video of their simulation of like the conversations that they had with the bot, the process, and kind of how they.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And the client, sorry, I cut you off. Just really, it's really interesting to me, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes my job easier. So those questions the bot is giving is something you extracted from the client. They can customize that.
Yep, exactly.
Wow, that's a big deal. Huh. So part of it's a customized process that you deal with the client then, right? Like what is it that you want to see from the candidate, and then it happens? Like, are there sort of core things that you extract from the client and input into the filtering process? Like, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing that we look for is like, the conversation that has to happen between two parties to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And so companies want to know that their freelancers can communicate effectively, and they want to know that their freelancers have sort of at least a foundation of knowledge about the company's goals and about the things that they want to achieve.
Yeah.
And so we plug that into a bot and sort of simulate the conversations that need to happen. And so we're able to pull a lot of that context from essentially just talking to like the product manager at Airbnb. And we're also building out a dashboard where these folks can actually build out the simulations themselves. So they can say here's my requirement, here's what I want to know. And we can generate content and generate questions and projects specifically based on that company's needs and how they want to evaluate clients or how they want to evaluate candidates.
So you said it's in private beta right now. What are the results coming back?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So far, we've had 20 freelancers, and we're really fresh on this. Like we launched this weeks ago in private beta, and so we've had 20 freelancers, and so far they love the experience of being able to learn a new craft in this way because it's essentially like contract-based learning. You give me a contract, you give me a client, and then I learn the skills that I need. One, on the requirements that client requires in order for me to do the job well, and then two, like even specific skill sets. Like I may need to know how to write Vue.js for this job. I may be a Node developer, but I need to know front end for this job because they want someone full stack. And so you get actual skill development as you go through that process, based on the contract, based on the client. And on the company side, the interesting feedback that we're getting is like they're excited about the amount of information that they're going to get on freelancers and on candidates before they get too far in the hiring process.
Yeah, dude. That's so like here at Bottlerocket, for example, when we interview engineers, like before we used to do this questionnaire, which we did away with. But now the first step before we even get an interview is a coding test, because we want to judge you based on the merit of what you create, which is your code. If we don't have that, we go for like the GitHub account to see what you've made. The thing about creatives like engineers and also like artists and stuff like that is that you can show your work. That is the first step.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, that's the hardest part, because when you see an engineer resume on paper, they all sort of kind of look the same.
Yep, exactly.
Here you can judge them that's what I was talking about, right? So you can judge them based on the merits of, that's a big deal, dude. Yeah.
Yep, we're early, we're still learning and figuring a lot of things out.
Can you input an actual test? Can like you have the freelancer take a development test and send you like a download link afterwards?
Yeah, and so our biggest thing is like the proof of work component. We can plug anything into the simulation that's relevant for being a freelancer at these companies. And at the end of it, like every freelancer should leave this product with 10 to 12 projects in their portfolio.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's very specific to the client, to the company. It's the way Bottlerocket hires.
Exactly.
And they're sort of like tailoring themselves in their work to what we need. That's legit, dude. That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear
wow.
from you.
What else should we know about this?
Yeah. So our like vision here is that everyone will have the opportunity to learn through a work simulation. What this looks like is someone graduates high school, or if someone leaves college early, they can essentially enter a work simulator, see exactly what it's like to work at a company like Airbnb or Dropbox, have that experience, build a portfolio that's tailored to the career that they want, whether it's in freelancing or full-time job placement. And that'll sort of become the education system. Like we feel like education and work should be integrated in each other. They should almost be identical. You shouldn't be able to tell the difference, right? And so we're integrating work and education together, and we want to give everyone access to work simulators so they can advance in life and in career.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk about that. You're touching on it already. You're interesting because you're like startup, and also you come from education. Tell me, why are you passionate about education, and what are you learning about the nature of learning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm passionate about education, sort of for the cliche reasons, I suppose. Like I feel like knowledge is the best thing, and once you learn how to learn, it just opens up an entire new world for you. And so that's why I really care about getting people access to affordable, quality education that has a direct and meaningful outcome. And that's sort of been my knock on traditional education, is that it becomes very abstract of what I get at the end of it. If I sit through this video tutorial, or if I pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to the school for 4 years, like what exactly is at the end of it? And so that then goes into how we think about learning and why we've built the product the way we have, because we actually tell you what you get on the front end. We give you a client and a contract first, and then you learn what you need to learn to fulfill that contract.
I love it. So, like I said, I've been a recruiter, and I hire a lot from the entry-level market, right? Which I can tell you for sure is the most brutal segment that exists, because they have very little points of differentiation, right? The most marketable individuals are the people who have created things, who have apps in the App Store, who can show the work that they've done, who have proven like internship experience, right? But everyone else with a degree, they all look the same to me. But it's interesting, your approach, because it is results and merits based on current market needs.
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's the applicability of what they're doing.
Yep.
That's legit, man.
And like we're excited about reskilling. Like we already have like 5 of our users have already came to us. We have a design track right now, and that's where those 20 are active. And they've already came and said, like, I'm going to do the coding track too. And I may do the digital marketing track. Like the ability to like reskill and stay current, and at any time I want to switch a career, or I want to at least learn a new skill to make me better at my current career, I can do it through a work simulator. And in 8 weeks, I've picked up a ton of information.
Is there application into the school system?
So it's interesting. We've talked to a few school districts so far, and we're sort of figuring out what could be there. It's probably not something we focus on the first 8 months, but we think it could be a good secondary market, and quite frankly, like we'd love to be able to power schools with this infrastructure. And the thing that we've gotten from our conversation so far is, one, there's a lot of missing curriculum in career and technology education. Like if there's a digital interactive media class, there's no curriculum for it. It's like, the teacher's kind of making it up as they go. And they have to figure a lot of things out, which makes their job more difficult. And then 2, a lot of schools are using, and even colleges, are still on sort of outdated tools. Like we're still certifying people for Adobe Suite when they want to be a designer, and like Sketch and Figma are kind of the industry standard now. And so these like technology changes so fast and so rapidly. There's always a new framework, there's always a new tool. And so being able to simulate what it's like to interact with those tools is something that we definitely want to bring to schools. And we're sort of engaging those conversations now, and hopefully we find something.
Wait, how does the freelancer get feedback? How do they know if they passed or failed, or what they need to improve on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the freelancer actually has a live mentor as they go through this process. And so if I'm learning to be a freelance designer right now in NewCraft, when I get the contract, I get the client, I have the conversation, I look at the specs, and now I move to Figma or Sketch to start to build out what the client has requested. As I'm drawing a box, I have a mentor there that will draw a box with me. I have a mentor there that will go through the process of showing me exactly what tools and what resources I need to fulfill this contract. And so we provide live mentorship as they go through this process. And you also have peers who are going through it with you. And so we try not to have like just one person going through one simulation at a time. We try to have 10 or 20 so that they can have a conversation about it as they go through it. And they'll say as they're going through the simulation, hey, I got stuck when the client asked for a web page that needs to integrate with Google Maps. I wasn't sure if I needed to design a new map or if I could pull the Google design. And so we'll see those kind of conversations happening, and that sort of creates a nice feedback loop.
And these mentors are NewCraft people or end client people?
Yeah, so these are actually like industry experts. And so your mentor could be a person who's a full-time product manager at Airbnb, and this is a way for them to teach and educate, get access to talent, but also earn extra income.
Okay, so I was going to ask, what is in it for them?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we pay them as people who are industry experts. Instead of them, like the process now is kind of, I can create a 4-hour-long tutorial and I can upload it to Udemy and I get paid for those courses. And so instead of that, like people will pay just to watch a designer at Airbnb work, just to see like what does it look like when they're designing?
Yeah.
What does it look like when they're going through that process? And so we provide access there as a way to get our users feedback, but also to make sure that they're also picking up fundamentals when they need them.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I have a training and development company, right? And you are an educator, and now you have this interesting piece here. I'm curious about the nature of learning. What have you discovered to be most effective in actually imparting ideas and getting people to do it?
Yeah, exactly. I love this question. So it comes from a Munger quote, Charles Munger. If you show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome.
If you show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome.
Yep.
Okay.
And so the biggest thing that we're doing here is, or one of the biggest things, is contract-based learning, incentive-based learning. So as the user goes through this process, they get immediate feedback, they get live mentors, and then we also have rewards that they can earn. So there's sort of these bounties that you can earn, and right now they're up to $1,500. It's competitive, right? Like I want to earn the bounty. I want my group to earn the bounty. I don't want the other group to earn the bounty. And so we're learning. We're trying to create the best project, and at the end of it, they can actually earn cash bounties for completing their project.
Even if they don't get the contract?
Even if they don't get, this is like before they even get hired by Airbnb or anything like that. This is just like strictly as you're building your portfolio, you can earn bounties as you learn.
Does it cost the freelancer to participate in this program?
Yes, it does.
It does, okay.
Yeah. So freelancers pay $84 per month.
Okay, got it.
For access to the simulation. And so I pay $84 per month. I get to learn new skills, new relevant skills for the companies that I want to do freelance work for. And I have the opportunity to earn these competitive bounties as I complete and submit projects.
That is really interesting.
So that's sort of that's the biggest thing that I picked up from teaching high school, opening a co-work space for freelancers, and even working with a lot of freelancers over the last few years is we can gamify a lot of this, and we can create sort of this interesting product that simulates this process.
That is fascinating. Wow. So Cam, let's close on one more topic, the future of startups. What is it?
Yeah. So I think the future of startups is decentralized. I think like we'll see a lot more companies coming up that have remote workforces and people work from anywhere.
Yeah.
And like if you think about like what a young Zuckerberg or a young Jeff Bezos will be building today, it's probably most certainly some kind of decentralized company where they're not necessarily thinking about having an office where they have people who come there and work every day, but more so having a workforce that's spread out across the world. And this kind of goes back into freelancing, where we think majority of the workforce will be freelancers, and it has a lot to do with the way startups are starting to be built.
You know, I believe that because I oversee talent here. All I do is recruiting. Like I would say, I've been here for 6 years, and I'd say probably 4 of the 6 years, all we ever did was just local, right?
Yep.
But now it's like we're understanding that the talent pool is being a little bit more spread out. It's getting much tighter. So we now have freelancers like in California and New York and different parts. So awesome. I mean, I can validate that just based on where I am.
Awesome. Yeah.
Right. So cool. Cam, where can people follow you, support you, learn more about what you're doing? This is great stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So NewCraft.io is the website for our company. I'm on Twitter at rulesbycam, and you can also shoot me an email at cam@newcraft.io.
Awesome. Well, Cam, this has been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Likewise.
Yeah, this has been awesome. And everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. As always, make sure to subscribe, comment, and share. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.